Welcome, everyone, to episode 225 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Pantalaresco. I write stuff and podcasts too. Today, Hayden Trenholm returns to the podcast, and in so doing, we actually have the conversation we tried to have at last when words collide. A few different things. First off, Hayden had a mustache, which, I mean, it was kind of intimidating, I'm not going to lie. The other, actually, big part, and this is no seriousness, Hayden was super relaxed. I have never seen, like, when I saw him in When Words Collide, he definitely was feeling the strain of just, being a publisher, putting out his books, doing all the things he was doing at When Words Collide. VCon, he was relaxed, he was at peace, he was having a good time, he was enjoying himself, and this conversation definitely feels that way. Yeah, like I said, this was a really fun conversation, and we're just going to get to that now, because I got lots of cool things to talk about when this conversation's over. So, without further ado, here's Hayden Trenholm, ladies and gentlemen. So you have something incriminating you'd like to say and make it good?
I was never drunk and disorderly at a frat house.
Never?
Never. Actually, I have no memory under oath, I swear. And if you keep on me about this, I'll yell at you.
Okay, I don't want to get yelled at. So how are you today, man?
Good.
Yeah, so last time we did this, we got cut short, sadly. This time...
We have endless time.
Or mostly endless time because I'm interviewing your wife after this. So.
That's right.
Right, so you... we really got talking just how you got into writing last time in your own publishing house. But since we last talked, you've kind of been traveling a lot. So where have you been and what have you been up to?
Where have I been? Well, just this year, I spent 6.5 weeks in Mexico, mostly the southern part of Mexico, Oaxaca State, Mexico City a bit, and then after that, I went to Africa.
Why'd you go to Africa?
I have wanted to go to Africa since I was 10 years old, and I just, both the combination of well, let's face it, as a kid I read all the Tarzan books.
Tarzan.
They're terrible now, but at the time it was very influential. And then I got into science and archaeology and the origins of man. And then I spent a lot of my life reading African literature, Chinua Achebe, Ben Okri,
It's always kind of called out to you a little bit.
It's always called out to me. So,
yeah. Whereabouts specifically?
We started off in Tanzania, or Tanzania as they say it there.
Okay.
And then we eventually got up to Kenya, and then went down to Zimbabwe and South Africa and Swaziland.
Wow.
Yeah, so we went to 5 countries. It sounds like a lot, but there are over 60 countries in Africa. So
well, it's still a significant amount of ground. I mean, it's not the full experience, but I'm not sure you'd want to get the full experience in one go either.
I don't think you could.
Yeah. So I mean, you're gonna go back?
I'd love to go back, but it's probably about the most expensive place in the world to go vacation.
Really?
Oh yeah, the airfares. People don't realize just how big Africa is. So to fly from London, England, where we started off, to go to Dar es Salaam in the southern part of Tanzania, 17 hours.
That's
it's like going to Australia.
Yeah. You don't think that actually, because if you look at it on the map, it's right there, but it's just that big.
The map lies as to how big Africa really is, and it's really quite massive. And so it's expensive to go there. It's expensive to be there because it's not like you can just sort of go and wander around. You kind of have to take guides and do that kind of thing. So people have to be paid, and you have to accommodate.
Which makes sense. And then suddenly, next thing you know, you're broke. You're like, what the heck happened?
That's right. Well, we fortunately had saved a lot of money over the last 10 years for precisely this kind of thing. And then, in fact, that's sort of besides the publishing now, travel is my primary focus. So next year we're going to go back to Mexico. We're going to go to Northern Europe. We're planning on driving from Ottawa to Vancouver Island because I have 3 books coming out and they're all from Western writers. So I'm going to drive out west with the books and do the book launches along the way. And,
that sounds like a fun way of doing it.
It is. Yeah. And then after that we're going to go to Northern Europe, Berlin, Prague, and eventually go to the World Science Fiction Convention in Dublin.
Oh, that's a very, very famous convention. Is everything it's cracked up to be? Do you know?
I have been to 8 of them over the years. I went to my first one in Baltimore in 1984, where Spider Robinson, who's here this weekend, won his Hugo Award for Melancholy Elephants.
Okay.
I met Dr. Isaac Asimov there. So
I'm a little jealous of it. I'm a huge Asimov fan. I'm also a huge Edgar Rice Burroughs fan, but I understand, like, in comparison to what goes on today, his literature is very, very basic in comparison.
And racist.
Yes, very much so, especially his westerns. Yeah, but it was a product of its time. But like, but I am a little jealous you met Asimov because I'm a big fan of his stuff. So, but that all said, it sounds like you're having a lot of fun.
We're having a lot of fun. Africa was everything we hoped it would be. It was just the things we saw, the people we met, the food we ate. It was just spectacular.
So, like, is there like any particular site? Like, I know there's probably like a lot of them, but is there one thing that like took you like in awe while you were there? It's like, holy crap, this is like so surreal.
The Serengeti. We were camping out on the Serengeti in open campsites, so animals could actually walk through our camp. We didn't actually have any walking through the camp, but we had 2 elephants that sort of hung out.
Nice.
Right, stone's throw away. I wouldn't throw stones at them.
No, they're big and strong, and you don't want to start on an elephant.
That's right. So that was, and the night sky, because it's almost right at the equator, so you see both the northern night sky and the southern night sky at the same time, the Big Dipper and the Southern Cross. So, and just no lights for 100 kilometers around. So all you see is the stars.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Well, that's what I miss about living in a small town. Like, because the biggest thing you miss when you look out at night, you see every single star in the sky. You're like, holy crap, we're not alone out there, because you can just look and see all the lights out there. But that'd be a really neat thing, like northern and southern. So, like I said, hopefully one day you get to go back to Africa. Hopefully.
I hope so.
Yeah, but beyond all that, you've got, so writing-wise, like publishing-wise, so what's keeping you busier, the writing end or the publishing end at this point?
It's a little bit of both. This year we sort of, I needed a little hiatus. This is my 6th year running the press for me. So I only published 1 book this year, which is coming out next week at CanCon in Ottawa.
Okay.
The author is Fiona Moore. She's a professor of business anthropology at Royal Holloway University in London, England. But she's a Canadian citizen. She's from Toronto. So she has a book coming out called Driving Ambition. It's all about intelligent cars and intelligent bots in the internet, and about a guy who can communicate with both humans and machine intelligence. And then there's a murder.
Sounds really cool.
It is.
Yeah, we're coming into such a really interesting time in terms of robotics and stuff like that. I've been doing research on robotics for myself with the novels I'm writing right now, and it's amazing, like physically what they have these robots do. Disney just bought like these stunt robots, and I was looking at those, like, that is amazing that they can leap and jump and do what they do. It's just like fantastic. And then it's just also just the fact that driving, as we know it today, might be heading towards a pastime, because if you have a smart car or a smart truck, you don't need to delivery drive, and you don't.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I personally welcome our robot overlord taxi drivers.
Yes. I don't mind. No, actually, it's almost, in one sense, it's a throwback to so auto accidents happen, and this is what I was taught in history class. So it's because people would go to the bar, get drunk, and the horse would carry them home. Well, car's not a horse.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? So now it's almost going back to that, where now the car will carry you home.
Okay. It's not only will you be able to drink and drive, you will drink while driving.
Yeah, exactly. And it won't be, that's going to be, the police officers are going to lose a lot of money with that.
That's right.
Yeah. So.
Well, we'll have, smart police cars stopping smart cars. Like
that would be a very strange thing.
Yeah.
It's like, why are we doing this? I don't know. I really don't know.
One of the most interesting things about automation when it comes to driving, 10 years ago, they began to install communication devices, wireless devices in German cars.
Yes.
So it was supposed to be an experiment, and they found that if 4% of vehicles are communicating with each other, it virtually eliminates traffic jams.
That actually makes sense because I was a truck driver. I remember this going on the road. Truckers would communicate all the time with CVs and stuff like that, and they would give them information on how to circumvent traffic, possible jams.
Yep.
The police too. I'm not going to lie, right? But I mean, it's just with enough communication, you can actually prevent a lot of problems before they actually happen.
Exactly. What causes traffic jams is critical numbers. So you can have 1,000 cars on the road, everything goes smooth. You put 2 more cars on that same road, and everything jams up.
Yes.
It has to do with reaction time and distances. So if you have 4% of the cars that sort of know what's going on, they can divert and you keep those numbers.
It manages the numbers all the time. So
that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And now I think 10 years from now, most cars will be driverless.
Yeah. Maybe even sooner. Maybe I could see I know Uber had their big accident, which will probably put it back a couple of years, but they'll probably be going back to the experimental testing again in about a year or so. And assuming no one else has any accidents, they'll actually start doing prototype testing.
Yeah, it's ironic though. It's a bit of the Frankenstein complex.
Yeah.
60,000 Americans die on the roads every year.
Yeah.
Right. One person gets killed by a driverless car, and oh my God, the world's coming to an end. It's like,
no, I get you. It's just it is a very interesting thing. Is as these what the big concern a lot of people have today is as we become more automated, a lot of the traditional jobs are gone. Now there's been automation in factories and things like that before, but before there was always it would create new jobs. Whereas some of this stuff, when it takes over, it's just there is no new jobs to be created anymore.
Yeah. Although it's still the case that a lot of the jobs that get taken over are not very good jobs.
Yes.
Right. So I think economies are very adaptable. We've had tremendous automation in the last 10 years.
Absolutely.
And right now in North America, we have some of the lowest unemployment rates we've seen in 30 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with new industries, new kinds of jobs being created. But in the long term, as automation increases, 20, 30 years from now, it will become a significant problem as to what we're going to do with people.
Yeah.
And I think part of the answer is probably a lot of people will just live in virtual reality, playing games. It's kind of weird because I had this thought the other day is if you look at how the world, and I'm talking about civilization, not the world in general. There's a lot of archaic, very quiet engineering that goes on the streets that almost kind of creates a virtual, augmented kind of reality already. So if anything, the automation is going to, for lack of a better term, augment that even more so. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But the real issue is that even if you're in virtual reality, you have to eat real food.
You have to eat real food, yeah, and
have real shelter.
Yeah, the real shelter, and also you need something. You also need to some degree some kind of purpose. I think the biggest issue a lot of people are going to have in 20, 30 years is I have all this knowledge, everything's taken care of. What do I do?
Yeah. I think you'll see a lot more people doing art. You're already seeing that. To some extent, the explosion in self-publishing, for example, is driven by technology, the ability to make it easy.
Absolutely.
But it's still, people have to want to write a book, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so this massive outpouring of writing, where people are writing, even though they know that in reality only a few dozen or a few hundred people will read them, it's that outlet. Because a lot of jobs are boring anyway.
Yeah.
Who can really say if they go and work at McDonald's that they have a real purpose in life?
Yeah.
If they're doing useful work, they're getting paid, but nobody's going to go, I guess that was my dream.
No, nobody says that, right?
So you're going to see people exploring art. You're going to see, I think, people figuring out ways to discover new things, learn new things. I think learning will become a big thing.
I hope so. I sincerely hope so. The one thing about today that's really fascinating is in terms of just sheer knowledge today. Mm-hmm. I can learn about anything, right? YouTube University is not really a joke anymore. Like, you literally can learn how to do absolutely anything you'd like to.
And the best thing about it is that you can now learn an entire corpus of knowledge, and it can all be wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right.
But anyway, back to the issue of how people are going to eat.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's no surprise that people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates and some of the other billionaires have sort of said, well, we need a basic income. We need to actually take into account the fact that our system now divides the world into the rich and the poor.
Yeah, right now the majority of the issues on the planet are class-based issues. Right. A very extreme example of that in terms of Western civilization is the United States. Right, you see that, like, as someone that's lived there, I can tell you, like, it's a lot more extreme in terms of have versus have not. There is such a huge difference. Here, Canada, don't get me wrong, it's not like it's perfect here either, but there is a lot more of a buffer, right? If you don't have, you can still live and function here.
We still have a social safety net to some extent. I think there's lots of people who are hacking away at it.
Yeah.
And one of the things I saw in Africa is particularly some of the countries like Zimbabwe, which has had a kleptocracy for the last 30 years. The wealth of the small number of people who become wealthy in Zimbabwe is out of this world. Like, it's like nothing you've ever seen anywhere. These are billionaires, most of whom are not listed in the world's billionaires because it's all hidden in Swiss bank accounts. In the meantime, the average Zimbabwean, struggles to get enough to eat every day.
Yeah.
And when we were in Zimbabwe, we were only there for a couple of days, and we were just in the nicest part of Zimbabwe, which is Victoria Falls. But, there people don't ask you for money; they ask you for clothing.
Yeah.
They say, "You have T-shirts you're getting ready? Because I'll take that."
But yeah, because that's what matters. Like, when I was going through my big struggles in the United States, the biggest difference between I found with wealth and poverty, believe it or not, are two really simple things: hot water, toilet paper.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I understand why there's these big black markets for toilet paper in some of these countries, because that is a luxury. I don't think people don't really understand it until it's taken away.
Well, in a lot of places, running water.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's going to be a big issue, and I wish the field of science fiction would spend more time dealing with issues like that, like class and like the future of work and so on, because I think it's going to, I think that's one of the purposes of science fiction is to try and both not predict. I don't think we can predict because nobody can see in the future, but at least presents possible scenarios. It could be this way, it could be this way, it could be this way, and this is how we might get there.
And that's where a lot of, for me, that's where the Asimovs, the Heinleins, the Clarks to some degree, like a lot of the older science fiction writers, they did that for a very, very long time. And I think somewhere, I would probably say like the early, maybe mid-90s, they veered away from that.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have still a few, like, Charles Stross does it to some degree. Sawyer still does it significantly, but it's a rarer thing now.
Yeah, Carl Schrader, another Canadian writer, does it. Madeline Ashby, to some extent. There are a lot of good Canadian writers who are writing near future stuff that is an attempt to explore some of the things that we're being presented with right now. Whether it's Madeline Ashby's writing. What happens if the sex trade is completely automated?
Yes.
What does that do to human relationships? It's fascinating speculation, and it's happening right now.
Well, I actually have a story in the back of my head. I actually thought, they're making sex robots now, right? And I thought that would actually be an interesting rehabilitation tool for people who have raped people. Like, it would be an interesting tool and device. And you can also explore how to condition.
Only if that robot knows how to slap that guy silly.
Oh, absolutely. But there would be that's the interesting thing. It would be a conditioning program at first. Right, because the robot can take the abuse. There'd be to a degree there'd be that outlet, and then over time, you might be able to, in theory, do because a robot could actually can take the abuse, wouldn't have the same physio-psychological issues, or would it? That's another thing too. We're dealing with intelligence that's also growing and evolving in ways we can't predict. I remember the Facebook experiment not too long ago, and they shut that down because the bots were actually creating their own language, and they were kind of going in their own direction, which is incredibly fascinating. But I can see why it would frighten some people too. It's like, oh, this was definitely gone parameters, and because intelligence, I mean, once it's out in the open, it's just going to do what it's going to do.
Although it's funny, I'm thinking of doing another anthology, maybe not next year, but the year after, which is tentatively titled "Artificial Stupidity." Because the premise not is a humorous thing, but more on the premise. Well, suppose our robot overlords arrive, and they're not any smarter than our current elected politicians.
Oh, good Lord!
Yeah. I think that's perfectly a reasonable thing, because after all, those intelligences are going to arise out of human programming. What's going to eventually, I mean, we won't see this probably for another 20 years, is any robotic intelligence is going to develop its own idiosyncrasies too. Perfection as a concept, I mean, is a good concept. The reality is, no matter how smart you are, you're never going to be perfect. You're going to have your own flaws, what you're blind to, and because much like any other kind of intelligence, it has to grow. Yeah, and the issue is it has to be self-repairing, because I mean, who hasn't had the frustration of having a program on their computer that has worked perfectly fine for years, and then suddenly it stops working?
Yes.
Because the software degraded.
Yeah.
Or because it interfered with other software.
Or there's a new update that ruined what feels there.
Whatever. So the future is certainly interesting, and we hope to continue exploring it at Bundoran Press. And for myself, I've been writing more the last little while. I just finished a novel.
Congrats.
Which I'm in the process of marketing. I don't want to publish it myself, because I never intended for Bundoran Press to be a vehicle for my writing. So I'm
That must have been an interesting balancing act for you, because I mean, you have your own, obviously you naturally have your own ambitions as a writer, but also your press, I mean, developing it does have a very good reputation for what it does, and is it hard to manage the time with it at this point, or is there like, do you like say, okay, this is how much time I have for me, and this is how much time I devote to the press? Is it that?
Well, it's a lot easier now that I don't have to go to a job every day.
Yes.
But it does occasionally. What I do find is there are periods of time when I have to be entirely focused on Bundoran Press. Like, as I come up to deadlines with books coming out, and then I'll have a period of time when I'm just can devote it to my own interest in my own writing. So I didn't do a lot of work on the press while I was traveling. I did finish the copy edits of the book that's coming out this October. But now I have, once I get home from VCon and get through CanCon, I have to spend the next 6 weeks after that doing the final edits of the 3 books that are coming out in May. And, so until Christmas I'll be completely engaged with Bundoran Press, but then I'll be sort of free, starting in January to work on my own stuff for a couple of months.
Yeah. Okay. So you have a relative balance, and obviously you have more time now, so it's a lot.
That's right.
It's a lot easier.
Yeah. And when we go to Mexico, we stay in one place. So we have a nice routine. We get up in the morning. Both my wife and I get up in the morning and write for a couple of hours, and then we get out and just enjoy being in Mexico.
Yeah. You seem happier, if you don't mind my saying so.
It's the beard.
Yeah, it's the beard. I'm a little jealous.
Makes me look happy.
Yeah, I'm jealous of the mustache a little bit. Yeah, it's a good mustache. But anyways, it sounds to me, I could be wrong, I think we have actually a relatively decent interview at this point. I could be totally wrong. So I guess we should do what's coming out next for the press.
Okay.
And anything else. Is there anything else coming out right now that we haven't talked about?
Well, I'll just tell you what our schedule is for now. As I say, next week we're launching Driving Ambition by Fiona Moore, and which will be available in bookstores and on Amazon and Kobo and so on. Next year in May, I have 3 books coming out. 2 by Calgary writers. Al Oni has a new book, The Sixth Helix, which is another noir detective. It's not a sequel to the ones that we did before. It's completely new and much harder science. Actually, a lot of physics in it.
That's cool.
Yeah, and we also have a new book by Jennifer Rand coming out, set in the same universe as her first book, but with a lot more about space Vikings.
Yes.
So it'll be fun. It's a real romp, and I think people will enjoy that. And then we have a book by a Vancouver writer, Brad Anderson. It's his debut novel, I'm really looking forward to it. It's an interesting book. It's about a lost colony of Earth who have been isolated on a hostile planet for 2,000 years, and they've sort of adapted and evolved to that. And it's an interesting story about obsession and about religion and betrayal. So, pretty heavy book, but
the good science fiction is supposed to be a little heavy.
Really good science fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then finally next year, first of a 2-book series from Ryan McFadden, a London writer who's a previous Aurora winner as a short story writer, so I think it's his first book's with Bundoran, but I think it's his third and fourth novels that he's had published. So, yeah, it's a good full schedule for the next year and a half.
It sounds like it, man. It sounds really good. So how can people find you?
Well, right now it's www.bundoranpress.com, all one word. But we're going to, we were talking about software degrading. Well, our website software is degraded, so I'm in the process of building a new web page, which I'm hoping will have the same domain name if I can make the transfer over. So, but if not, I'll let you know.
Just let me know when I have it launched, and I'll give you a proper link. All right. And that was my conversation with Hayden. It was another short one, but it was a really fun one this time around. I really enjoyed it. Hayden, you're always welcome to come back whenever you'd like. So, Bundoran Press is doing right now what they're calling the Bundoran Buddies Sci-Fi Bundle, which is 12 books for a really reasonable price. You can go to worldwideweb.storybundle.com/sci-fi if you'd like to check it out. It's really, really, really good. There's some amazing books there. Like, just looking at this list myself right now, you got Tanya Huff, Valor's Choice. You got The First Machine Dynasty by Madeline Ashby. You have Frameship by Robert J. Sawyer. Organisms Selected Stories by James Allen Gardner. You have Transient City from Al Onla. Breakpoint Neurals by Alison Sinclair. You got Stars Like Cold Fire by Brent Nichols, who's also a very good writer in his own right. Right to Know by Edward Will. Like, there's some really, really good books here, and you should definitely take the opportunity to get them if you can. They're currently, like I said, www.storybundle.com/sci-fi. Definitely take a look at it. It's good for another 2 weeks. I would encourage people to go do so now. All right, so Alice Zero is just about done. I got one more thing to do, and then next week I do the ebook, and I'm hoping to start pre-orders as early as next week this time. So hopefully 2 episodes around episode 227, I will have information for you, my listening public, on how to get my next book as we count to 0. Finally. I'm really excited. This has been a good year already so far. I've already done some work for a magazine. I've been working on just maintaining a certain level of creativity the whole time. I'm interviewing different guests right now. Even now, it's already kind of started rolling, and it's been really fun to do. I got 2 really cool people I'm meeting up with tomorrow. Well, one tomorrow and then one Saturday, and that'll be like for March down the road, which is just really, really fun. Like, all in all, I have to say, like, I'm really happy with how things have been going so far. The next step is getting ready now for Seattle Emerald City Comic Con. I will be there. It is the weekend of March 12th through 14th. I will be there as a professional for the first time ever. It's going to be awesome. I cannot wait to meet you guys there. I'll be definitely looking to do some more interviews for the podcast while I'm there. It's going to be a fun time, I promise. And that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing. If you want to support the podcast, you can do so a number of different ways. For starters, you can subscribe to it Podomatic, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. My show is available pretty much any player you can imagine. Go find it, Just Joshing, listen to it, subscribe to it, leave a nice, kind word here and there. That'd be great. My books, The Watcher, Storm Dancer, Wandering God, are available through MirrorWorldPublishing.com, Kobo, Amazon, wherever books are sold. You should definitely take a look there. And all the other wonderful books they have. Outside of that, I have a YouTube channel, Joshua Pentellaresco. You're definitely going to see some videos added, like, literally as soon as I'm done here. But outside of that, guys, listen. Stay inspired. Keep doing whatever it is you feel called to do. Don't think about what you could have been. Worry instead about what you can be, because that can be an amazing thing. All right, everybody. Take care of yourselves. I'll talk to you next time.
Josh.